Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Right Guys podcast. Hey, $1,000 to leave ain't bad. And now your hosts, Josh Hammerling and Max McGuire.
$1,000 to leave. That is the new Trump plan for this next wave of deportations. Welcome to the show. My name is Max McGuire here with Mr. Producer Josh Hammerling. Self-deportation, something that Barack Obama infamously kind of laughed at Mitt Romney for saying it could work, it could happen. Laughed at John McCain for suggesting it.
That's right.
Donald Trump rolling it out. And if you're in the country illegally and you fear that you could get arrested and deported forcefully, this looks like a pretty good deal. I'll go ahead and put it up on the screen. Right now, to detain and deport an illegal alien, it is costing the federal government $17,000 per illegal alien. That's for the salaries of the workers, the attorneys, right? Court costs, all that. And at the end, we're also then putting them on a bus or putting them on a plane and paying for that anyway. So what the Trump administration has done is they've crunched the numbers and said, hey, if you self-deport, we'll pay for your plane ticket. We'll give you $1,000 for incidentals, and we'll save almost $13,000 per illegal alien.
Oh my God! It would be $85 billion is what it would cost us as a country to do the deportations.
Yeah,
at the standard cost. Holy Whoa! Whoa!
And so this is something that the left knows. And they've gone out of their way to make it as hard as possible for the government to be able to afford this. They play games with the spending. Infamously, they restricted what's known as the beds. That's how the left went after Trump the first time. Said, okay, you can deport illegal aliens, but you're only allowed at any given time to have 30,000 ICE detention beds. Well, what that means is when you capture 30,000 illegal aliens, when you capture the 30,001st illegal alien, you have a decision to make. Do you release someone who's already detained so they can have a bed, or do you keep them in prison and release the guy you just caught? Right. And that has forced the government to make some balancing decisions. Oh, well, we have a rapist. We just caught a rapist, but we have a murderer in prison. Which would we rather have in the country? A rapist go free or a murderer go free? Well, the correct answer is neither. But the Democrats forced that issue and forced the Trump administration back then to choose. This gets around that by basically tripling the number of people who can be deported.
You know, the Democrats created a problem that no matter what happened would cost us at a minimum right now of $22.5 billion just by letting the border be wide open. You know, the more and more we see this gross out of control spending by government, we see the Joe Biden administration causing debt to occur just by letting people walk over the fence. And nobody's pissed about this. Like, nobody's angry that this is going to cost me probably like $2,000 over the next 50 years in taxes alone, just for this one thing, besides the other $30 trillion in debt. No, like, why are people out in the streets just being angry about this one? Dude, they don't even know.
Don't even know. They don't even know. And listen, this is something that Donald Trump is very popular on. Republicans, independents, and even many Democrats want him deporting these illegal aliens. I'm going to play a clip right now, and I want you to see it. This is just news from like this came out today. And you see the chyron on the bottom of this news story talks about the self-deportation plan that was basically announced today. So this is news today.
I'm here in the sanctuary city of Los Angeles. ICE confirms to Fox News that 3 suspects arrested in connection with the home invasion murder of a man in the Woodland Hills neighborhood last Sunday are all in the U.S. illegally. ICE's acting director Todd Lyons tells Fox they are all Georgia nationals, 2 of whom were caught and released at the border after crossing illegally, and the 3rd, who overstayed a tourist visa and, listen to this, had 2 previous arrests with ICE detainers on him ignored due to sanctuary policy.
They were still allowed to stay here in the U.S. and commit crimes. So you have 3 individuals from the nation of Georgia who didn't know each other, who have now met up in the sanctuary state of California in Los Angeles and killed an innocent person. For these elected officials, I say shame on you.
I mean,
That's insane.
it's insane. It is insane. And now the left's argument is and always has been, oh, well, Americans commit crimes too. That's not the issue, right?
Yeah.
That suggests, I mean, that's logically that's logical lunacy, right?
Yeah.
The idea that we can bring in a bunch of murderers into the country as long as per capita there's less murderers than we already have here, right?
Is that the straw man argument they're doing on that one?
Like imagine in the United States there's 2 murderers per every 100,000 people, right? The left's argument is, well, as long as we don't exceed 1 murderer per 100,000 illegal aliens, that's actually better because we've reduced the per capita number of murders. It's insane.
Oh,
you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's not how it works. This is a raw number, right? We're not looking to decrease the percentage of murderers in this country. We want a raw number decrease in murderers, right?
Yeah.
There's no world in which bringing murderers into the United States is better.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a problem that didn't exist until they got here. And apparently they walked right over that border, and the Biden administration was just looked the other way. I mean, how many times were these guys arrested?
That one guy, they said twice.
I mean, that's insane.
Twice. Yeah.
If you and I were arrested, we'd at least be in the system at this point. But
yeah. No, it's terrible. And you heard from that news report, these were 3 people who didn't know each other previously. They came into the country illegally, and they linked up. Well, one came legally and then overstayed a visa, but the other 2 were illegal alien catch and release. They then joined up. There has to be some gang activity. You don't just find other illegal aliens and naturally gravitate towards home invasion murder.
wow.
Yeah, it's terrible. And the other argument is that the left says we have murderers here too. Yeah, but it is absolutely factual that if these illegal aliens were not in the country, this homeowner wouldn't have been killed.
Yeah,
now, you can't prove that he wouldn't be killed tomorrow or the next day or the day after, but that's not the issue here. He was killed because illegal aliens were allowed into the country and allowed to stay. Biden administration turned a blind eye to them.
Wow. And, if you just go to the CIA's website and you just look up the country of Georgia, their military problems are illicit drugs, people displaced.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So there's a ton of crime coming out of this place. And that didn't set red flags off when they were arrested? I mean, did the people or did law enforcement in California not see that these guys might be wanted by Interpol too and ignore it because they fall under that protection?
There's kind of an assumption that many make that when it comes to like Chechens and like Georgians, that the bad ones are going to fight Russia and that everyone who comes here is a good one. Obviously, we just see from this case not true, though many of them are in Ukraine fighting Russians because they just want to kill Russians. I mean, it's like stories you used to hear from back in the day of Irish people who would go around the world and volunteer in whatever army happened to be fighting the British army at the time because they just wanted to kill some Brits, right? I mean, this was part of the history. So they had that going on. But here, I mean, it's to hear liberals defend this and say, like, oh, well, this is, I mean, the way they describe it is, oh, you got to crack a few eggs to make an omelet. I mean, that's basically their argument.
Yeah.
Like, if you want open border hellhole, some people are going to have to die, right? If you ask them, what is the acceptable number of Americans who have to be sacrificed at the altar to open borders? They're going to give you a non-zero number.
Yeah.
And that's terrifying, right? Conservatives, Republicans, some Republicans, I bet you the Chamber of Commerce Republicans probably would give you a non-zero number too. But conservatives say, no, none of them are acceptable. Whereas liberals say, oh, well, you're going to get the bad with the good. No, the whole point of having borders, the whole point of having immigration law and vetting is that you weed out the bad.
Absolutely.
To the most extent possible. Go ahead.
Oh, and they bring with them all of the. Remember, it's just not the person. They bring with them their culture, the things that they enjoy and like to do. You got to remember that some of these guys have no problem with trying to marry a girl under 12 in some of these countries, right?
Yeah.
Some of these people that come over have really weird food, like just using the bathroom on public streets, right? There's more than just this. And you want to be able to
We've
sit
gone
at the
over that.
border and vet people, right? You
Yeah.
want to say,
Yeah.
you're okay, you can come in. Hey, do you promise not to use the streets as a bathroom? Come on in. I mean, that's the point of the border. Vet them. Make sure we don't allow this stuff in. But Democrats were letting anything over. And
Did you see
apparently
the thing?
What?
You're reminding me. Did you see the thing that came out over the weekend? I completely forgot about it.
I don't know if we're thinking the same thing, but hit me.
There was a checklist that was used by Border Patrol and ICE for catch and release for all of the things that, like, okay, you're released. These are the things you have to do as a condition of your release for legal aliens. And I'm trying to find it right now. But one of them was for registered sex offenders, saying you have to promise to register wherever you live and to go to sex offender like therapy.
They'll never do it.
I'm trying to find it.
Oh my God. Please promise to register as a sex offender when you illegally enter the country. I mean, that would be like the dumbest ask ever. Oh yeah, I promise to do that when I get there. I want all the neighbors to know what I do. Unbelievable.
I'm trying to find
the honor system.
Yeah.
The honor system for pedos? Is that it? Wow. It's mind blowing.
Where did I see this over the weekend?
But that's what you give at Democrats, though.
Yeah,
that's what you get.
Yeah, no, I mean,
you know.
And again, that's we gotta crack a few eggs to make an omelet, right? I guess we gotta let a few sex offenders in order to get the good ones, right?
Well, let's ask Coleman if that's the case, and I guarantee you he'll give the correct answer of no, we don't allow anyone over the border that's not supposed to be over the border, right? Oh my goodness. Yeah, we promise.
Why can't I find this now?
We'll make sure we'll tell everyone that we're offenders. Yeah, not a problem.
It's stupid, right?
Well, and the thing is, they get together probably on some sort of social app, and they're like, "Oh, hey, we all happen to be from the same town. We decided to do a little house robbing ring together, because Americans are nice and trusting, and there's good stuff everywhere." Wow, I'm being facetious here, but it really pisses me off.
Here we go.
Oh, did you find that booklet? I'd love to see.
I found it.
Do you promise to tell everyone you're a convicted felon? Do you promise to tell everyone? Do you, partner?
At a stage. Okay.
Oh my God.
Okay. Order of release on recognizance addendum. So let's go through all the things. So they put their name, file number, date, and then they have to check certain things as like a pinky swear promise, right? That you do not associate with known gang members, criminal associates, or be associated with any such activity.
I promise.
That you register in a substance abuse program within 14 days and provide ICE with written proof of such within 30 days. The proof must include the name, address, duration, objective. So this isn't like everyone doesn't get this checked off. This is something that gets checked off if you have a red flag, right? So if you had a past of gang membership and you're like, I promise I've changed. They say, okay, we release you, but you have to pinky swear promise.
Yeah.
Check this first box, right? Oh yeah. Well, I used to be addicted to drugs, but I'm not. Oh, well, then you have to make sure you get in a substance abuse program.
Yeah.
Here's the one I was just talking about. That you register in a sexual deviancy counseling program within 14 days and provide ICE with written proof of such within 30 days. You must provide ICE with the name of the counselor, the address of the program, duration, and objectives of the program, as well as the name of the counselor. That you register as a sex offender, if applicable, within 7 days of being released with the appropriate agencies and provide ICE with written proof. That you do not commit any crimes while on this order of release. That you report to any parole or probation officer as required within 5 business days. That you continue to follow any prescribed doctor's orders, whether medical or psychological, including taking prescribed medication. That you provide ICE with written copies of requests to embassies or consulates requesting the issuance of travel document. Right? So, and then they can also do where they can have other rules. But this is basically, this happens, Josh, when someone gets caught, they do the background check. Say, oh man, this guy is a sexual predator.
Yeah.
He's a pedophile. Do we lock him up? Do we deport him? Or do we release him and force him to sign on the bottom line that he promises he's going to go into a sexual deviancy counseling program and promises, if applicable, he registers as a sex offender? Well, you know how you get around that one, Josh. You don't move to a state where it's required.
Yeah. I mean, I promise to go do all these things. Yeah, you bet. I'll make sure that happens. I'll show back up here in 30 days. Right. And the thing is, a lot of these dudes came in and they've got a lot of other homies with them. And they're like, hey, listen, we decided that we were all going to come in together. And were they all gang members? Right. They're not going to put these questions on this exam without knowing that a lot of these people probably were coming in as prison gangs together. Right. That the majority of them were sex offenders. I mean, they knew. And the reason we know is because you had to fill this sheet out.
Yeah.
And it's just such I promise to do that. Not a problem. I'll make sure it happens. Unbelievable.
They also required it on the back end. So when you finally got to your supervisor, your probation agent, whatever, this is the form that they filled out, which was all aliens, probation, parole officer notified, obtain the address, enter ident, NCIC check, travel document. They have a specific section for sex offenders. So this isn't like you. I would understand. I would disagree vehemently. But if like this other one, like where is it? It's right here. Like imagine if they didn't have the sex offender part, but like it had been used in like other, like as an extreme example of like other, like, oh, you're a sex offender, you got to register. The fact that it is the number 3 and 4 on the list, it's before don't commit any crimes.
Wow.
Right. It's before checking with your parole officer. Right. And the fact that on the back end, when they do have a supervisor, the supervision checklist out processing is that your probation parole officer was notified they're a sex offender. They registered as a sex offender. They coordinated in notifying the victim and witnesses. Think about that. Imagine you flee to the United States, right? Imagine you're raped. A woman's raped abroad. She flees to the United States to get away from her attacker. And she wakes up one morning, checks the mailbox, and there's a notification from DHS that their rapist was paroled and released into the United States as an illegal alien. And this was notifying them that they just happened to set up shop in the same neighborhood.
Wow. I bet a lot.
Common sense says this shouldn't even be an option.
1.5 million, Max. Do you know what that number is for? It's for the number of gotaways.
Yeah.
The ones who got away. Now, how many of these gotaways even saw this paperwork?
No, none. None of them.
None? Not a one, right?
That's the whole thing that got away.
Imagine of having the nightmare of, I guess it would be the luxury of being told that your attacker might, like the scenario gave, be back in the U.S. But imagine how many rapists came over and nobody knows that they're rapists and are harming people and decided to continue to harm people. It's insane.
Mr. J says, what's up, guys? What's up, Mr. J? We're just talking about how the Biden administration was paroling illegal aliens into the country and apparently had so many sex offender illegal aliens that they actually included it on the processing form, the checklist of what had to happen when they're being released and when they're actually being processed by their supervisor, parole officer.
Was this applied to all those gotaways? I can imagine that this kind of paper was loosely filled out too in some of these, we'll say sanctuary cities, right? Like how much of this occurred? How many people actually decided that, you know what, I'm going to fill out the paperwork and do it? And I bet you that number is really low because if you're a bad guy, you're just not going to start advertising to the world that you do those horrible things. I mean, it's like entering a golden land of theft, robbery, and rape when you walk into the U.S., right? I mean, nobody knows who you are. You can start your spree all over again. That's incredible. Yeah. I mean, and the best we got was this little form that ICE agents were filling out. Like, who was filling out these forms? Like, who's doing the job?
an American, and I have no sympathy for American sex offenders, none, right?
Yeah.
I do think there is a subset of them, based on my experience in college of hearing horror stories of people who got drunk one night, walked home, decided to piss on a bush because they were drunk, and they got slapped with public indecency. And that kind of sex offender label has carried on with them forever. There are people who have been lumped into this who don't deserve to be there, but the actual bona fide sex offenders, for sure, don't deserve sympathy. I think some of them are trying to turn their life around, but I'm not going to give any of them a leg up or any particular help or convenience. But if you're an American sex offender, you can't travel to Australia, you can't travel to Canada, China, Japan, United Kingdom, or where else, Josh? Mexico.
Georgia? Oh, Mexico. I was going to say Georgia. Maybe that was like the name, like the name. So you can't go into Mexico if you're a sex offender.
If you are a U.S. convicted registered sex offender, you cannot come into Mexico legally.
Why would
Yet we are apparently under Biden, we're accepting illegal aliens who are registered sex offenders. Do you know how hard that is to find that out? Because we've covered this on the show. Illegal aliens were crossing and they were dumping all their identity documents, right?
Absolutely.
Piles and piles of IDs, passports, because they don't want the American government to know who they are, because then they'll know where to send them back. They literally say, I don't know. What's your name? I don't know. Pablo, I don't know. Piles of this stuff, piles of these passports. So the idea that the federal government was finding enough sex offenders amongst the undocumented illegal alien mass migration that they felt the need to make it the number 3 checklist on the form, right? I mean, we're not talking about really up-to-date kind of databases either, right? I mean, this is the issue with trying to figure out if someone from Syria is a terrorist. How are you going to do that when the government records building has been bombed out? Or maybe it's under control of terrorists, right? You can't pick up the phone and say, hey, is this guy a terrorist? It just doesn't work. The fact that they were finding them amidst all of these hurdles and struggles and making it difficult, that they were still finding enough of them, Josh, to make this like a designated 3rd and 4th checklist on the form. It's just mind-boggling.
Max, we were told,
and then letting them go.
We were told that these people crossing the border weren't dangerous. We were told that they weren't being released from prisons and coming over here. You know, I think the year's like 2022-ish, right? We're hearing from the Biden administration that they're just people seeking refuge. Even the media started carrying the narrative that they're not violent criminals. They're not actually here. They're not engaging in crime. And, you know, the news is complicit in it. But it turns out that it sounds like a ton of these people crossing the border were already sex offenders the moment they got there. So how do they reconcile that? Do we just continue to believe their lie?
Yeah, Josh, the they're actually good people narrative is out the window. I don't know if you saw this, but CNN actually tracked down gang members who are members in gangs that have been designated terrorist organizations. And they were interviewing them to see how they feel about Donald Trump targeting them. Here we go.
What's your message to Donald Trump? So we've just entered an area of the city that is still very dangerous. After weeks of trying, our contact here on the ground has managed to secure a meeting with a member of the cartel who's involved apparently in the production of drugs. ¿Cómo estás? This man is talking to us on the condition we hide his identity and location.
Yeah, because there's a drone hovering over his
He says he
house.
produces fentanyl for the Sinaloa cartel.
How safe or dangerous is this area to be in?
En estos momentos todas las áreas son peligrosas.
I mean, according to the Trump administration, you are a terrorist. I mean, the cartels have been labeled a foreign terrorist organization. What do you make of that?
Está fea la situación, ¿verdad? Está fea la situación, pero pues de todos modos tenemos que comer.
What's your message to
Well, the situation is ugly, but we have to eat. You've been labeled a terrorist organization. What do you have to say about that? The situation is ugly, but we got to eat. That's not denial that they're engaged in terrorism. I mean, this is CNN seeking out fentanyl manufacturers from the Sinaloa cartel, trying to get anti-Trump sound bites.
That's
Josh,
insane.
it gets
Oh my
worse.
gosh.
What's your message to Donald Trump?
Talk about humanizing criminals. All we hear from the left is, oh, don't humanize Trump. Don't humanize Trump. They sought out a Sinaloa fentanyl producer, cartel member, designated terrorist to see what is your message to Donald Trump. And actually, the message is a little bit surprising.
If he's watching this,
Mis respetos, él tiene
My respect.
que, según él, buscar lo mejor para los suyos.
According to him, he's looking out for his people. Imagine going all the way to Mexico, tracking down the Sinaloa cartel member, getting him on camera, hoping you're going to get the anti-Trump soundbite of, we're not really terrorists.
If I'm
what do you have to say to Trump? My respect.
Yeah.
What the hell?
He listens to his people. Could you imagine being Trump's marketing team? Like, so even the Sinaloa think we're kind of badass. Like, how do we leverage this one? And he's wearing a weird hat. It's like a Joker Ben Franklin sort of setup.
Yeah.
And wow, it seems like they were. Well, that's the thing, though, is that power respects power, and they know the power that he can wield. Right? They know that Donald Trump, if he really wanted to, could probably wage total war on the cartels and win.
Well, that happened over the weekend. He requested permission from Mexico's president for U.S. forces to go in to get the cartels, and she denied them. Said no, and she gave a big speech saying, "I will never allow." She is now on the clock.
Yeah.
She's either going to take out these cartels, or J dams are going to start falling from the sky. It would be very interesting. I mean, there's something going on in Ukraine called glide bombing. Have you read about that?
Well, I would imagine. So no, what is it?
So anti-air defenses in Ukraine are shooting Russian planes out of the sky, obviously. So what the Russians do is they glide bomb. High altitude, they'll drop a bomb on the Russian side of the border, and instead of falling straight down, it will glide across the border and hit where they want to hit. Whereas if they were to fly there and drop it straight down, they'd be vulnerable to anti-air defenses. So I'm wondering.
Wow.
Obviously, we have missiles we could shoot, right? We have lots of ways we could hit them. I mean, I'm sure we could just the Barrett 50 cal. You could take out a couple people from a hilltop on the U.S. side. I'm wondering how long it takes, though. Like you say, oh well, we're not allowed to use their airspace. Okay, we have ways, right? We have ways around that. She's on the clock, though. She's on the clock. They said we'll take them out for you. She said no, because the worry is, and it's not really worry, it's the assumption that the Mexican government is corrupt, that they are connected to the cartel, and that the reason the cartel never actually gets dealt with is because the people making those decisions, carrying out those raids, are on the take, right? So they're calling up their cartel buddies and say, hey, we're hitting your safe house tomorrow. Make sure you're not there. Of course, when they raid, there's no one there, right? I mean, this is the kind of shit that happens. And it's not all that surprising when they'll have an election and half of the candidates will just get murdered by the cartel.
Max, so
the ones that are left are the cartel favorites.
I know. So if there are elements of the cartels within the heart of the Mexican government, technically the Mexican government is a terrorist organization and is in the crosshairs of the United States because they have been allowing the murder and the drugs to go directly over the border. I mean, technically, we could be at war with Mexico tomorrow.
Yeah,
and it's a real possibility. And I figure it might be a quiet little war, like snipers from distances, important people going out before they have to really drop big bombs. You know, maybe they do drop a JDAM on a cocaine production facility in the middle of the jungle somewhere, right? But for the most part,
that's gonna be some spicy air. For the next couple of days around that, the air is gonna be spicy.
Or setting those warehouses on fire that they put that stuff in.
Yeah. The United States never hesitates to blow up terrorists around the globe that they have a realistic and like real fear could be plotting against the U.S. Right? Like if we find an Al Qaeda like branch off in like Kenya, right? We don't wait for the Kenyans to say, yeah, go for it. right? I mean, or Somalia. Somalia's a little different because Somalia is a failed state. Like we're not asking the government of Yemen for permission before we strike the Houthis, right? It reaches a point where you assume through inaction or inability that the governments that govern these areas are either incapable or unwilling to do the job, right? Mexico has long reached that point.
Yeah.
Whether it is you're unwilling because you're in on it or you're incapable because they have you outgunned, one or the other, you are failing. Now, Mexico's a trade partner. Yemen's not a big trade partner. So there's other considerations here. But at some point, the designated terrorists on the Mexican side of the border are going to get lit up.
Yeah, the time is coming. So we were just talking about self-deporting. I wonder if he's trying to get the cartels to do some self-retiring. Like this is the time just to be like, you know what? Let's call it a day. Maybe they dismantle themselves, and if they do, the big players get out. What's left is a bunch of ragtag fighters that will be easier to pick off. So Trump's really actually being very nice here. He's offering people money to leave the country, and he's asking Mexico right now to do something about the cartels. And once that ship sails, it's all on the table. It's all on the table.
Yeah. And that's something that the government has been doing. And that's something that many cartel people, if they have any little nest eggs saved up, they're getting out and they're retiring, right?
Sure.
Like they know that it's a matter of when, not if a JDAM or a Hellfire missile flies through their window, right? So a lot of them are trying to go legit, taking their money and trying to invest it in something, let them get out of it, let them go legit. It's a matter of when, not if.
Yeah.
And there's only going to be so many opportunities Mexico's president is going to get to say no.
So was she just elected a year or two ago? When's their next election in Mexico? And, can she just sit there and retire? I mean, why not say, go ahead? Why not? Why not take out all of our cartel problem? I mean, if I was the leader of Mexico, it'd be like one of those moments where it's like, sure. Obviously it'd probably create power vacuums, but you fill those in.
Claudia Sheinbaum. Yes, she is a Mexican Jew, which is interesting. They exist. But that was like my first question. Like, how did that happen? She was elected 2024. So she's just starting her term.
Interesting. Wow.
So it's either 3 or 6 years. I don't know. I don't know enough about Mexico's government.
So I wonder how many phone calls she's fielding a week now from her contacts in the U.S. saying, hey, now's the time. Or they're being fed some operational information so they can do something about it. Right? This might be Trump trying to figure out who's who in this game, too. Like, who's who?
Yeah, that's the challenge. If you give up your sources and methods to a government that you fear is working with the cartel, it's not even fear. We know there are elements within the Mexican government that are on the cartel's take. Like we know that, right? So ideally, you go to the Mexican government and say, "This is where they are. This is when they'll be there. Take them out, or we're going to do it." Right? But the fear is that if you share that information, it can get down to the cartel. They won't be there, and they'll be able to glean how you got the information, whose cell phone you were listening to, right? Who you were spying on, who is a confidential informant, and then you lose the ability, right? So it's a really narrow tightrope to walk on right now. But what's obvious is the status quo is unacceptable.
Yeah. How much fentanyl crosses the border from Mexico? Sex trade. I mean, who was that Massachusetts man that was deported accidentally? Who was allegedly Maryland man that was running allegedly, beating up his wife and trafficking people, right? Like, how much of that has poured in? There's 1.5 million.
He was driving the vehicle of a convicted human trafficker, and that vehicle had been modified to add extra seats, and it was full of people with no luggage. But he swears he was not trafficking them.
Okay. So yeah, more of that, I guess. If we don't do anything about it at the border. And this is the first time I think any administration has seriously taken the cartel and the drug problem on for what it is. You want to talk about an industry that had gone unchecked probably since the 80s. There was that war on drugs, but it's not like there was an actual war on drugs happening. There were
Yeah,
none.
no.
There wasn't anything going on. And they've been making billions of dollars for 30 plus years. Like they got to do something about it now because they'll get so big they will be Mexico, right? I mean, and that's not far away. People love most cartel members than they do their own government officials. I mean, they have music down there. The
Yeah.
narcodios kind of
Yeah,
music
yeah.
where they sing about these guys. So sooner or later, they will be the government if they're not already.
So the Trump administration is focused on removing illegal alien criminals, going after the gang members, and allowing illegal aliens to self-deport, save the U.S. money, save them dignity, right? It's a lot better for an illegal alien to get on a flight on their own, $1,000 spending money in their pocket, than it would be to go through the whole deportation process. Let me show you what CNN ran with today. This is their breaking A block.
It is May 5th, and that means Cinco de Mayo, Wolf, a holiday that celebrates Mexico's victory over France. But some, in the Battle of Puebla, I should say, but some communities have canceled or scaled back cultural events because of President Trump's crackdown on illegal immigration and the fear among many Latinos that they could be arrested.
Wow.
So everything going on in the world. We just showed the Trump story, the Fox News story. 3 illegal aliens, 2 catch and release, 1 visa overstay with multiple ICE detainers that weren't honored. Home invade and murder a man.
Wow.
The CNN lead, what they ran with is sending someone to Mexico to try and get an anti-Trump soundbite from the Sinaloa cartel.
Yeah.
And saying, oh, well, there's going to be less fiestas. There's less Cinco de Mayo fiestas because they're afraid.
Oh my God.
Josh, less fiestas. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if we had less fiestas?
CNN? Oh my gosh. Isn't that a like an actual Mexican holiday in Mexico? So why are people in the U.S. celebrating some other country's independence? I never got that. It's not like Australians celebrate American independence, right? I never got that.
I understand why they do it, right? Because it's the same reason that, like, I celebrate St. Patrick's Day, right? So you can be in the United States and you can still celebrate a holiday that is from where you came from or where your family came from. I get that. It's fine. But the idea that that there are so many of them here that the organizations are canceling the Cinco de Mayo celebrations because no one will show up because everyone's afraid of being deported. These are not U.S. citizen Mexican Americans who are afraid of being deported. These are not green card holding Mexican citizens who are afraid to be deported. These are illegal aliens.
Yeah, who are celebrating.
I've been to some of these. I've been to some of these Cinco de Mayo here in Texas. Super festive. Like here in San Antonio, it was also Fiesta this past week, which is like really cool citywide celebration. I don't think people realize when you walk through these street festivals, like a lot of people think, oh, illegal immigration is just a small thing, right? No, enough illegal aliens have come into the country under Joe Biden. I think it's 3 or 4 Nebraska's worth. You add them all up, it's either 2 to 4, somewhere in there.
Oh my God.
Enough illegal aliens to basically have 2 to 4 Nebraskas. Forget the exact number, but somewhere in there.
That's a lot of people.
You realize you're at one of these Cinco de Mayo celebrations, and the fact that they're scaling them down, canceling them, means that they were all illegal aliens or mostly illegal aliens, right? You go to a St. Patrick's Day parade. Probably no Irish illegal aliens. Maybe a couple.
Yeah, maybe some visa overstays. I'm not going to say it's not
maybe
impossible.
Some visa overstays. I mean, like I went to school in Boston, and I love the Boondock Saints, that movie. So those were 2 Irish kind of illegal aliens taking crime into their own hand. So it exists. It definitely exists. It exists then, less now. But it feels like Cinco de Mayo is one of those unique holidays where that becomes a consideration of, oh, what happens if ICE comes, right?
Yeah, and it's no surprise because you look at, if you were here in Denver somewhere, you see the Cinco de Mayo celebrations. Everybody's just driving up and down the street. Things get kind of rowdy, but most of the people out there, they're there celebrating. It would be easy to start picking them out in the crowd, especially when Denver utilizes some of that face recognition technology they claim that they're not actually using. So yeah, I would be paranoid too if I was here illegally and I was at these celebrations. Like you want to go out and have a good time, but maybe start hitting up license plates. There's all kinds of stuff that law enforcement would probably see. So I would avoid them. I tell people to stay home, and it's probably for the better. Like if you're trying to actually self-deport yourself, you don't want to get caught at a Cinco de Mayo celebration. It's not, I don't know.
No.
That's what happens when you have Holman going after things. Like there's a genuine fear out there that they catch you at some of these events now. There's genuine fear that they catch it.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean?
And there should be. There should be. There absolutely should be. A few things that we want to talk about still, but have you seen this this Ed Martin nomination?
Ed Martin
was nominated to be the DC U.S. attorney.
Oh.
And we're running up against a hard deadline. He's been the nominee for a while. And the Senate isn't acting on the nomination. He's acting right now, but he hasn't been officially Senate confirmed. So my understanding is that if he is not Senate confirmed, what's the date? By May 20th. If he's not Senate confirmed by May 20th, a federal judge gets to decide who is the new acting U.S. attorney. And do you want to have a guess on who the federal judge is?
Oh, was it the same guy that went after Trump?
Judge Boasberg.
You're kidding.
Same judge. The judge who just randomly is getting all of the anti-Trump cases. If the Republicans in the Senate do not confirm this man to be officially full-time U.S. attorney, his acting status will run out, and Judge Boasberg will get to nominate a temporary replacement. But even a temporary leftist in charge of the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. can completely sabotage cases they're working on.
Yeah.
Right? It's maddening. So no vote today on him.
That's shocking.
Let me check on Twitter. Check on X to see if there's any progress.
How does this guy keep just randomly being inserted into these high-profile cases? Like it's amazing how he, I would think that if he might be some sort of agent the way he's being handpicked all the time for it. That's wild. Another person who genuinely hates Trump, I think, being able to make that call.
Yeah.
I mean, wow. And are we shocked? Lawfare. I mean,
lawfare. So yeah, they have until the 20th. No vote today. Of course, the names being thrown around are Tom Tillis, Bill Cassidy, Suzanne Collins, John Curtis of Utah, Mitch McConnell, Lisa Murkowski, and Roger Wicker of Mississippi are allegedly the ones who are on the fence, and the reasons why it hasn't been brought forward yet.
Well, they need to get their together and wow. But they're going to sit on their hands. They want this thing to happen. Then we got to expose all the faces that didn't vote for it on this show so people can see what they're doing. Why do so many Republicans still hate Trump? I mean,
the correct answer is that they aren't really conservatives. They're not really Republicans.
Yeah.
Republicans in name only, the rhinos. That's the answer. I mean, Lisa Murkowski was never a conservative. Susan Collins is never a conservative. And you accept that, right? You accept that you're not going to get a statewide conservative to win in Maine. Why she's in Alaska, I'll never know. I have to think that there are better ones. But literally, they changed their constitution to help her. They did ranked choice voting to help her stay alive in Alaska. So you accept it, right? The problem is that the Republicans don't have a big enough majority. If they had even a couple more seats in the Senate, this wouldn't be a big deal.
That's too much power in that vote. They get to negotiate now, right? They know how this stuff works in Washington. You want this done? Well, I need this here. That's the whole reason they're doing it. I mean, they're putting themselves and their own interests ahead of the American people's interests, essentially.
Yeah.
Which is pretty, I mean, think about that when you vote for them.
Yeah, and that's the problem. And that's the problem. And you look at down in Georgia, you got Brian Kemp running for the Republican seat. Brian Kemp is anti-Trump. He's the former governor. Former governor? Yeah.
Thought he was.
Georgia.
Brian Kemp?
Yeah. Yeah, he's current governor. Okay. He's anti-Trump. He was part of that whole call. Remember the find the ballots that the left used as like, oh, that's Trump breaking the law. He's the one who leaked that call. Him and his office. So he's anti-Trump. You're like, well, why are you running them? Why are you running him?
Yeah.
Well, the thinking is that in order to beat they have 2 Democrat senators, right? So the goal is to bring someone towards the middle who's already showed he can win in statewide election. So there's so many cases like this where you're like, okay, well, what's the alternative? The alternative is that we get is it Ossoff who's running again? Oh no! Breaking news: Kemp is not running. He decided not to run today. Oh, I thought he was a shoo-in. Yeah, no. He says he will not run.
Shocker that somebody asked him to step aside. That's usually what happens in those backdoor meetings where they're like, "Listen, man, we can't. You're gonna have to drop out of this thing. You know, this is our person.
Oh no,
Take
it's
2
not.
years
It's
off."
not usually that nice. It's usually like, hey, we found this video. I'm not saying for him, but like generically, it'd be like, hey, we found this video of you dressed like a little schoolgirl.
Yeah,
prancing around.
It'd be a shame if that got out.
Shame if it got out. I bet you it doesn't get out if you don't run.
Yeah.
Right. That's how they do these things. Like, oh yeah, we got your internet history. Be real shame.
That's really weird. Let's go through what you've been looking at. Yeah, you're probably right because it's never nice. Like politics is so dirty. They'll go for the jugular on everything they can. And state politics, that is even worse than national politics because you want to talk about people that get amazing backroom deals or those conversations of take your time now, wait 4 years. We'll there's other people that'll run. We'll make it worth your while.
Yeah.
Who was that? Who was it in Arizona they tried to bribe out? Was the Republican the RNC chairman? What was her face? Short hair. They bribed her, right?
Carrie Lake.
Yeah. And that's how they operate, right? They did
the same. They did the same with Sununu in New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Sununu came out earlier this year and said, I've talked with my family. It's not the right time for me.
Yeah.
So I have a feeling it's not the conservatives that are doing this. Probably the Democrats.
Yeah.
When you have a bunch of anti-Trump Republicans who are deciding, hey, now's not the time to run, when it looks like they probably would win, you have to think that they don't want that seat to be in Republican hands. I don't know.
It's interesting.
Anything else you want to mention before we wrap up?
Oh, no. Playoffs in hockey are going. The Avalanche were knocked out.
You see that last night?
Yeah.
You see it last night with the Blues?
Yeah. Oh, did they get screwed too?
Yeah. The Blues were winning. The Blues were winning 3-1 with like a minute and a half left in the third period, and they lost in second overtime.
Oh.
Yeah. Whoa. Yeah. The Jets tied the game with 1 second left on the clock. Sent it to double overtime. Yeah.
I'm telling you, that's why I've worked hockey before. You've got to play that game every second until that clock goes down. Like hockey is the most dynamic sport you can ever play. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I wonder how many people lost their minds on the line last night for it. I mean,
oh yeah.
That's all.
Oh yeah. No, it's well, if you're betting the over, you probably were happy. Because the over usually sits around 6. 5 for 6.
I'd also been seeing that Brittany Griner might be in hot water because she was caught allegedly gambling on her own games.
Oh, she get the Pete Rose treatment?
I don't know. Of course, these are all alleged. It's a lot of people are reporting this, and that the WNBA is looking into banning her from ever playing another game in the league. And then you're like, how? I mean, she gets rescued from Russia. It's like one of the big deals that Biden does and comes back here. I mean, was she so desperate for money? I mean, what?
Oh, they are.
possesses you?
They make next to nothing.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. She's
so
probably dead broke.
I've always fallen on the side of like the Pete Rose side of it. If you're betting on yourself to win, I don't have a problem with that, right? If you're so confident that you're going to win, you're saying I'm gonna double down. I'm gonna put my money where my mouth is. I don't have as much of a problem with that. If you're betting like, oh, this player is going to strike out in his first at bat, and then you slip him some money and he strikes out, that's bullshit, right? Or if you bet that you're going to lose and then you throw the game, or you bet that you're going to cover, and then you refuse to score at the end of the game, that's bullshit. But if you're just going to do money line, I think I'm going to win this game. I'm confident in me and the boys. I don't have as big of a problem with that.
Yeah,
but it's a slippery slope.
Yourself, but let's say that you just miss a couple of shots and you don't make the line, right? And you're responsible for 2/3 of the points on a team because she's an unbelievable player, right? Like how much of her offensive production is responsible for that team winning? And I'm not saying she did, but if it's going to be terrible. Yeah, she should probably be Pete Rose. I mean, he died before. I always thought Pete Rose should have been in the Hall of Fame.
Didn't Trump pardon him?
Yeah, or something like that. But still, it was the baseball hated his guts for that, and there was a lifetime ban, and they meant it. So
MLB, yeah, he did. Trump did, and Trump met with MLB and is asking them to reassess, and they're going to meet. And they say MLB says they are going to rule on a request to end the ban for the hits leader, so he'd be able to get into Cooperstown. Listen, wow. If I think the general rule is if you doing poorly causes you to lose money, I don't have a problem with that. Right?
Yeah.
If you and your team doing poorly causes you lose money, that's fine. If you want to bet on yourself and double down, put your money where your mouth is, I've never had a problem with that. I know it can probably get slippery, especially when you have like when you have like the betting lines and you have the over under. It can get messy. But in terms of like the theory behind it, of I know I'm going to win, I'm going to bet my salary, I'm going to double my money.
Yeah.
And if not, I'll work for free. Basically, that's what they're saying. Right.
And all you need is a couple of a-hole gangsters on you saying, you know what, you borrowed $20K on us, you're going to make us 50, and this is how you're going to do it. You're going to be too sick to play on Tuesday, right? Like, I hope that's not the case, but I mean, if it is, talk about really screwing your life up twice.
Yeah.
I mean,
I am more concerned about people who have inside information, sharing that inside information, insider trading with people on the outside before it leaks or gets out so that they can get better betting odds. For the life of me, I don't know how ESPN, who breaks all this news, has their own gambling hub. Obviously,
ESPN Bet. It makes you wonder, right?
It's ESPN Bet. It's Penn Gambling, just rebranded as ESPN. It used to be Barstool Sportsbook. So it's not like ESPN running it, but still, it just feels weird that you have people on ESPN, personalities, paid to recommend bets when they know what the next segment's about, and they know in a couple of minutes they're going to talk about how this player isn't going to play today. It's just it's too murky. It's too murky. But listen, that's the world we're in.
Yeah, and it's amazing how good they are at calling those lines now. Like they come down to the point most of the time. Either it's super AI or they just kind of, I don't know. I think it's dirty. I really do.
I think it is too. I think a lot of it's AI now, but never underestimate the handicappers who've been doing this for decades, since before it was legal. And you ask them why, he said, hunch. And their hunches are right like 80% of the time. Never underestimate the handicappers either.
Yeah, they're incredible. So,
well, that's it for this edition. If you like the podcast, give us a thumbs up, subscribe. We have the audio edition of the podcast available everywhere audio podcasts are found. That's it for this edition. My name is Max McGuire.
I'm Josh Ammerling.
Remember, the fight to take back our country is not over yet, but the only way we win is if we all stand up and fight together. See you next time.